Well, in what could be a big breakthrough in indigenous cancer treatments, India's first homegrown CAR T-cell therapy for cancer treatment. This therapy has been jointly developed by IIT and Tata Memorial. We are joined by Dr. Gaurav Narula from one of the India's prestigious cancer hospitals, Tata Memorial, also to talk about what does this mean for the country by and large. In cancer treatment and in terms of making us understand. Dr. Narula, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. Just to break this further for viewers of DD India to understand what makes this a big breakthrough and give us more details about it.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here. So this therapy is actually different in the way that we use the body's own immune system to tackle cancer. And it involves some very complex technology because we take the immune cells from the patient. So it's very highly personalized and it can be used back only for that patient. And these are genetically modified outside the body in a lab or in a manufacturing facility to attack or recognize and attack a particular kind of cancer, in this case, B-cell leukemias and lymphomas. And then we give it back to the patient and it helps to clear the cancer. Now, this has been seen to be very effective in patients whom actually had no lines of therapy left. Now, we must understand that B-cell leukemia and lymphoma are actually quite curable by currently available therapies like chemotherapy and transplant. But when these stop working in some of these patients, 20 to 30% patients, then they have no lines of therapy left. And in this situation, these therapies have shown remarkable responses. So that's why it's such a breakthrough.
And in terms of affordability also?
Oh, yes, indeed. So actually, these therapies are terribly expensive. When we started working, IIT Bombay and us, when we started working on this project around 2015 together, at that time, there was no available therapy in the world. They were all in early phase clinical trials. But even at that time, we understood that when it's developed, it's going to be terribly expensive and it'll never come to our country. So that's when we thought that, unless we develop it inside India, and make it in India and understand the technology in India, only then will it be affordable. And that's what's actually happened. So now it's available now. My colleague and collaborator in Indian Institute of Technology formed a company called ImmunoAct, which has now got the marketing approval for it. And it's being available at 1/10 the cost of what it is in the West. So it's nearly 4.5 crores and upwards in the US. And many European countries don't have it because of the price, but over here it's selling for between 30 to 40 lakhs from ImmunoAct. So that's a terrific achievement, which could only happen because it was developed here.
Terrific achievement, and that a layman would just want to understand that are we now looking at the possibility of the complete cure to cancer?
How I wish indeed that was possible. Isn't that everyone's dream, and surely for us too. But I think we are a long way away from that. This is a spectacular breakthrough technology with a lot of potential. But as of now, its proof lies in only a handful of cancers, mostly blood cancers. There are trials going around all over the world in difficult to treat cancers. Many of them are showing promising results. But when we say promising in medicine, we are talking about 8 to 10 years before it can be used in the clinic.
Okay.
Hopefully, because there's so much advancement happening, we might see breakthroughs in other areas in the coming years. We ourselves are working on it, and so are many others in the world, but now we are also in it.
And this putting India in the elite nations global map where gene therapy has been used or is being used.
Oh, yes, indeed. So actually, in 2015, when we started out, there was just a handful of trials going on in the US, but by that time, and the responses were so great, even in these early phase trials, the race began. By 2018-19, China had overtaken US in the number of clinical trials going on. And by the end of 2022, I think there were more than 3,000 to 4,000 trials going on around the world. But all these trials were focused in a handful of countries. So apart from the US and China and a few European countries, there was hardly anybody else who had any therapy close to approval. And so we are in an elite club now, and we have done it over here. We had some guidance from the National Cancer Institute in Bethesda, but it was in the terms of knowledge mentoring. We didn't get any research funding or any materials from them, so it's entirely made by ourselves. So yes, so we are in an elite club now.
You know that, yes, and that question on complete cure to cancer, but at least now there is this new ray of hope through gene therapy.
Yes, it has opened up a whole new avenue. So up
Okay.
till now, we have been treating cancer with chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, and these are still very effective and the recommended cures for most of these cancers. What this has opened up is an avenue, and hopefully in the coming decade, we will see many more cell and gene therapies coming up for some other blood cancers initially and some gene disorders. They're already on the way. These trials are already happening, even in India as we speak. And more are planned on the corner. We ourselves are planning to launch some other clinical trials for cell therapy probably later this year. So it's opened up a whole new avenue. So there's a lot of promise, but word of caution, it may not work for everything.
Yeah.
We will find out when we try them out, and that will take time.
And what is the kind of timeline, doctor, we're looking at?
Normally in medicine, a timeline from discovery in the lab to translation to approved therapy in the clinic takes anywhere between 10 to 20 years. We were able to do this pretty fast because we started working in 2015 and ImmunoAct got approval by 2023. So in a short span of 8 to 9 years, this is actually quite unprecedented. But this kind of thing will not happen every time.
Right.
What we have now is we have the capacity and the platform. So we hope that the next ones will also come out faster.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Capacity, and there's also this conversation about this triggering new startups ecosystem, particularly in the healthcare.
Yes. So actually, this is something which is desperately needed. I think, our healthcare industry has worked mostly on a revenue model which depends upon footfall. Whereas if you see the healthcare industry in the West and developed countries works on innovation. The big money in healthcare comes from innovation. And unless you innovate, you will always be chasing smaller things. This is an example of innovation from academic centers. The therapy was developed in IIT Bombay in Dr. Rahul Pudwar's lab. And then after that, we worked together to bring it to the clinic. But, these are academic institutions who did it. And then Dr. Rahul Pudwar opened this company, ImmunoAct startup, which has successfully taken it. This model should be replicated in different institutes and allow the next lot of ideas to make it rapidly to the clinic. We need an entire ecosystem of major academic centers and industry partnering to bring these therapies. These require investment, even though our therapy is cheaper, but it still require a lot of funds. And those kind of funds are not easy to come by in India.
Okay.
So it requires industry academic collaboration of a degree which we are only beginning to start seeing now in India. Hopefully, this will become a template.
Absolutely, and why not? At least the beginning has been made, and that too, it's a huge step. Of course, you and other scientists and doctors from both these prestigious institutes are part of the core team. So as a doctor, what would be your message to those families or perhaps those who are battling cancer? Would you like to give some message and as a parting note?
So it is actually the lack of and loss of options when children especially reached this stage in the therapy when we were having to turn them back and go home, which is what drove me and my friends and colleagues to somehow get this therapy anyhow into India. And, we went ahead with a passion regardless kind of attitude. We were not going to stop till it was here. But still, the sad reality is that it's applicable only to one type of cancer, and we are hoping that we can bring it to all those patients where it might work as fast as possible. It takes time, but there's hope, and we are hoping that we can take this forward. It's one step at a time, one patient at a time.
Yes.
So we just hope to continue.
Once again, huge congratulations to you and your team from Tata and the other institute. Also, thank you very much at the same time for joining us on this broadcast and sharing these very critical details. Thank you, sir.